went home, said goodbye to my husband, and joined the temple. And 2 months later, he also joined because his philosophy was, I won't work. He was a hippie. It was the hippie philosophy, I won't work. So I was working a little to support the family, myself and him. So after I left, it was very difficult for him to do his philosophy of I won't work. And so after 2 months, his money was gone, so he had to join also. Because as a devotee, we weren't working. We were just chanting the whole day, no work, It was all fun. So he could follow his philosophy by becoming a devotee. And so we were in the temple, and Harinam was so amazing that every day we were out there, rain, sun, snow, 10 hours a day. Now they have these 10-hour kirtans, but we were having it every day for day in and day out, and we were so ecstatic that we really lost touch with even our bodies. We couldn't tell, where we were disconnected from even we didn't know, who we were materially. We lost contact. I was also, at the same time as Harinam, I was on the press, ISKCON Press was there, and I was typesetting the Bhagavad Gita, Macmillan Bhagavad Gita. And the first day I walked in the temple, Pradyumna said to me, so we need you to type Bhagavad Gita, so you have to learn how to read Sanskrit. Here's the Ishopanishad, the back, see, there's the Sanskrit, there's the English, now you type it. And I said, okay. I learned Sanskrit the first day I moved in. And so we were typing. That was going 24 hours. Prabhupada wanted the typesetting to go 24 hours. We didn't have computers in those days. It was a huge 5-foot big machine with a typewriter attached. And you had to type one line, and then you would read 2 dials like C4, and then you type the line and write C4, and then you retype it on photographic paper, ready for printing. And then you'd have to set the dials before each line, like C4, B5, and then it would come straight. And if you made a mistake, then you would have to retype it. And layout was, literally laid out all over the floor. And cut and paste was, they would cut what we typed and paste it on. It was really cut and paste. So if you know where that came from, now you know. Because it was literally what they were doing to make a book. We would type it on photographic paper, and if we made a mistake, we'd have to retype the word on photographic paper, and they would cut it out and paste it on top. So that was our typesetting. That was going amazing temple. It was a temple president was Satsvit Maharaj. Our Harinam leader was Giriraj Maharaj. Temple commander was Sridharnanda Maharaj. And the press in charge was Jai Dvaita Maharaj. And the interior decorator was Bhavananda. And all the artists were there. And amazing dramas, because the artists were all like musicians, Bhardraj, amazing musicians out on Harinam too. Musicians and artists and drama, they were all so. And we had many classes every day, even though somehow we were out on the streets. I remember we had a class out in the streets during lunchtime. We would eat out there, bring the prasad with us. And then we'd have morning and we'd have evening. We'd go back for the evening and go back out and come back at 10, 11 at night. But it was so amazing that we, like one time somebody asked me, are you feeling okay? I said, well, either I have a fever, but I'm not sure, maybe it's ecstatic symptoms. Because that's how we were. We just didn't know where our bodies, couldn't really tell because we were so happy. And we didn't, any spare time we would chant and dance. That's all we did. Like if prasad was late, we'd all be chanting and dancing, 65 of us, living in this one house. Grihastas, everybody together. Grihastas had their own rooms somehow, I don't know how. Of course, there weren't enough rooms, so my husband and I, we were in a closet. And it wasn't very big. But it was under the roof, so they had cut a hole in the roof, so we got some air. And the snow was coming in on top of us while we were sleeping. Grihastha Ashram Ki Jai. So it was really, it was such a spirit. And we had no money, of course. I was a musician, so I sold my cello to pay 1 month's rent, remember? And then after being there for 6 months, Satsut Maharaj said, I'm sending you to Florida. Now, Boston is at the top and Florida is at the bottom. And how was he going to send us? We were curious. Not by airplane, not by train, not by bus. We had to hitchhike to Florida. That was our devotee means of transportation in the old days, hitchhiking. And of course we were quite a sight when they put us on the highway in yellow sheets. Grihastas wore yellow sheets and brahmacharis and brahmacharis wore saffron sheets in those days. The women and the men both wore saffron. But I always wore yellow because I said I'm married, I have a husband, so I wore yellow sheets. So we were there with our yellow sheets flapping in the wind and on the highway. And at that time devotees were rare, you know. There is one pamphlet Srila Prabhupada wrote, which was the first book my husband got. It was entitled Who is Crazy? Because everybody thought we were crazy. So Prabhupada wrote the book, the pamphlet, which said, everybody, but the devotees are crazy. And only devotees are not crazy. So, yeah, there we were, and we had our luggage was a few boxes tied together. We didn't have suitcases in those days. We didn't have anything. But anyway, somebody miraculously picked us up after an hour, took us to New York. And New York devotees were merciful, let us collect for a bus ticket to Florida. So then we were in Florida, and the system in those days was that you get trained up. Every grihasta gets trained up and learn how to little cooking, little chanting, book distribution, magazine distribution, and then you go out and start a temple. So after 1 year, they kicked us out, and we had to go and start our own temple in Florida. And so that was the standard. Now, another standard was after 6 months you would get initiated. So after 6 months I asked for initiation. They said, well, why don't you wait 2 more months for your husband? I said, okay, 8 months. 2 more months I waited. I said, okay. I said to my husband, let's get initiated. He said, I'm not ready. I said, well, I'm not waiting any longer for you. I'm going to get initiated. I wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada and I said, if you don't initiate me, I'm like a dead body. So, and I quoted Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, that if you don't get the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee on your head, you're a dead body, although breathing. So he wrote me yes, and we had to, well, these are not the beads, I have them in my room, the original. We had to string our own beads. They were not tulsi, big ones. And I strung my beads, I sent my beads and the letter to Prabhupada. He sent me a letter back after he chanted on my beads. And he said that now, yes, first birth is from your mother and father, but your real birth is from your spiritual master. So now your path is open to go back home, back to Godhead, to live eternally in full bliss and knowledge with Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he gave me 6 instructions in that initiation letter to chant at least 16 rounds every day, follow strictly the 4 regulative principles, to read and study all my books, do deity worship, or go to alarjis, and to do Sankirtan preaching. So for 7 years I did deity worship as a pujari in India, Calcutta Temple. For 7 years I did traveling book distribution in India, from Bombay Temple. And now since 20 years I'm teaching the books. But I was always reading the books, but I didn't start studying until 1994, and then I started teaching also. Studying the books. Reading and studying are 2 different things. When you read, you just feel good and happy and relish. But when you study, you have to think, oh, how can I convince others about this? How can I present this systematically so people will understand? So studying is a whole different thing. And I started teaching. So then five instructions I've been doing. 1 instruction is left. to be done. And that one is 24 hours be engaged, Krishna service. So maybe that's when I do my bhajan before I die. I don't know. Of course, if I dream of devotional service, I guess that counts as 24. But when I was Pujari, then it was 20 hours seva, 4 hours sleep in Calcutta. Because I was the head and practically only Pujari. Everybody else was going out to collect. And I had to do all the artis and dressing and everything. And managing. But yes, it's so I tried to follow those orders. And then I got a second letter from Prabhupada just a few weeks or months after my initiation. And that letter, he explained in what consciousness should I do my devotional service. He gave me 3 qualities which are very important. And he said enthusiasm, sincerity, and cooperation with the other devotees. Very important quality. I mean, 2 are like personal, and the other one is like the most difficult, to cooperate with everybody else, which is hard, very hard. In my 44 years, I can say that's the most difficult thing to do. And that was what Prabhupada wanted us to do, was cooperate with each other. When I was a new devotee, I was thinking, oh, I'm God's gift to the movement. People, they should appreciate me a lot. Then after a few years went by, I was thinking, well, actually, you know, I'm seeing others also have some good qualities. I should tolerate them. And then a few years more went by, and I was thinking, actually, these devotees are really wonderful, and I need to learn a lot. Actually, and after a few more years, you think, wow, I don't know anything, and I need to develop good qualities. You know, your kind of consciousness changes as you stay in ISKCON for some years. So then, what happened next? I saw Prabhupada first in Florida, and it's written in the Amrita, in this remote corner of the world, which was Gainesville, Florida. And we went to the airport to greet Srila Prabhupada. And it was quite a scene because they were carrying this huge, I think, Vyasa-san, maybe 6 or 7 men had to carry it. They were struggling down the airport corridor, and Prabhupada just took one look at it, and he was disgusted, and he wouldn't even sit on it because it was too crazy a scene. And then, but when I first met him, I had the feeling that I was following behind him, and I said, I can follow behind him for the rest of my life. And I felt, for the first time in my life, I felt like this is where I belong. I never felt at home in America, even as a child at 10 years old. I remember looking at the other kids in school, and I was thinking, I don't know where I'm from. I'm not one of them. But one thing I know, maybe I'm from another country, maybe I'm from another planet. But one thing I know, I'm not one of them. I'm not American. I knew it when I was 10. When I went to India, I felt a lot better. But when I first met Srila Prabhupada, then I understood this is where I belong. I never belonged anywhere in the material world before I met Prabhupada. So, yes, it was a nice meeting. But of course in India, I had much more association. In the West, you could not get very close to Prabhupada because there were so many devotees, but in India it was very relaxed. And so in India, how we got there was, again, Satsrup Maharaj. Prabhupada asked for 50 devotees to go to India. So from every temple they chose devotees. So we were, at that time, it was 1972, Dallas, Texas. So Satsrup Maharaj said to my husband and I, I'm sending you to India. We thought, how are we going to get to India now? Of course, hitchhiked, but only to New York. And then New York was merciful and let us collect again. And we had this pamphlet on chanting Hare Krishna, a little pamphlet. We sold for 25 cents. And after 3 weeks, we got our tickets, $300 each, one-way tickets. And we never went back, practically, because Prabhupada told us, you go, but he didn't tell us to go back. So we didn't go back, just stayed in India. I'm there now 41 years. And so we came to India. Bombay, Juhu was not only culture shock, but it was whole life shock, because it was such austere conditions. The men were in a hut, and Tamal Krishna was complaining to Prabhupada about the austere conditions in the hut, which was the prasada room, office, kitchen, everything in one hut. And the ladies' ashram was on the roof of the building, and it was summer in Bombay, very hot. So a lot of austerity. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj complained to Prabhupada that, oh, this is too difficult, we are not used to this. And Prabhupada said, well, don't you want to be purified? And I remember one time, it was a few years later, we went to Calcutta after 2 weeks. We were sent to be pujaris. But I remember visiting Bombay for a visa purpose, and I saw Giriraj. So he was brahmachari. Prabhu, he was lying underneath a table in the hut. And I said, what are you doing under there? He said, oh, I have very high fever, malaria. It's the only place I can stay where nobody will step on me. So that was our condition. In those days, we had this clay pot of water with the top. You open the top and all these mosquitoes would fly out from it, and that was our drinking water. So we were all sick, of course, very sick. But yes, one time Prabhupada would go on these morning walks with Dr. Patel, and he was very kind to the devotees, and he donated mattresses, mosquito nets, and sheets and pillows for the devotees. But within 2 years, they were all lost. You know how devotees are, and people come and take things. So Dr. Patel would, they would always have arguments, Dr. Patel and Prabhupada, that he was in favor of the impersonal realization more, as what I can see from their conversations. He wanted liberation very badly, Dr. Patel. So when Dr. Patel started complaining, oh, these devotees, they don't take care of their health, they're just so useless. So Prabhupada said to him, so, that liberation you so much desire to have, they already have it. We were liberated, Prabhupada said. Living in India was liberation because of the austerity. So then we got sent to Calcutta, and I was so happy because I had a roof over my head. There was lots of cockroaches and big ones, and rats, even bigger. But I was very happy in Calcutta. And we were on the floor. I remember for 18 years I slept on a chatai, straw mat on the floor. It was very comfortable, actually. Until I got pregnant, then I couldn't get up off the floor, so we had to find a bed. We found a broken bed with 3 legs. And we put bricks underneath, and then I had my bed somebody had thrown it out, and I was getting slivers, so the wood was coming up, and I had my first bed since I was a devotee, We never had a bed. But, I had special consideration. I was pregnant, and I was 38 years old, so I got my bed. But, it was... So then the first time in India, I believe the first time I saw Prabhupada was in Vrindavan in 1972. Srila Prabhupada was giving Nectar and Devotion lectures, and we were sitting in the dust of the courtyard of Radha Damodar Temple, the same dust that the 6 Goswamis, they used to sit there and discuss Bhagavatam. So we were sitting in that, and Prabhupada was speaking first canto, second chapter in the morning, and Nectar and Devotion in the evening. So one time we were sitting in his room, and there were some bananas at his feet, and one monkey ran in, grabbed the bananas, and ran out with the bananas. So then my god sister Vishaka, she threw her chadar on top of the monkey, grabbed the bananas back from the monkey, and Prabhupada said to us, none of you would dare to do that. And he said, the monkey is very intelligent for eating. You should not be intelligent for eating. And in India, Prabhupada was everything. He was, sometimes he would take the position of temple president, accountant, treasurer, because we were just like children in India. We didn't know how to manage. And I remember one time the GBC quit after 2 months. So Prabhupada became our GBC. That was nice. In Vrindavan there was this one devotee, Smar Hari, and he was doing the shopping. So Prabhupada chastised him that why you're buying everything every day, you should buy some quantity, like of wheat or rice. It'll be cheaper if you buy in quantity than if you just buy little every day. So this devotee got the bright idea to apply Prabhupada's teachings. He bought a huge amount of bananas. And they all went bad because it was summer. So Prabhupada said to him, "You like bananas because you're a monkey, that's why." So, we did, we get the idea, but we didn't know the application quite. So I was in Vrindavan in 1972. It was really Vrindavan in those days. It was, the main road was not paved, it was just a dirt road, and peacocks were dancing in the middle of the road. Now you're lucky to have your life if you cross the road, because these huge trucks and buses right in front of the temple. But in those days it was very peaceful, and we had no money. There were a few cycle rickshaws, nothing with any engines, even until the 80s. 80 something, I remember. I came for book distribution there with our traveling party. And our truck was the sensation of the village. We had a Mercedes van, and everybody was just coming to see the van. Now it's, everything is there. But in those days, there were no loudspeakers. All you could hear, we were living at Keshigot, again, austerity. Because it was like they said it was a castle, it was more like a dungeon, because it was so dirty, and there was no bathroom except a hole in the floor on the second floor, and the water you had to get it from a well. And of course I had dysentery, which was not very easy to take care of. You have to run down, get the bucket, run up every time from the well. But of course we were happy to be with Srila Prabhupada, and we walked everywhere. There was no question. We didn't have money for a rickshaw. It was 1 rupee. We couldn't afford it. We had not 1 rupee, no money. We were walking everywhere. And so Prabhupada, after his nectar of devotion class, he would have darshan. We would go in his room. And so one time he singled me out, and he said, so, my sister says you speak Srimad Bhagavatam very nicely. So I was completely bewildered, because I never spoke Bhagavatam and what to speak of nicely. So I was trying to think, what is she talking about? Then I remembered, Janmashtami Day, our tradition was from morning to night we take turns reading Krishna book. So there I was reading Krishna book, and Prabhupada's sister is sitting in front of me, and I was reading in English, and she only knew Bengali. And she was probably my only audience, if I can recall. We didn't have much crowd those days for Janmashtami. Jai, so I was reading very dramatically about the Rasa Leela and how Krishna left the gopis. And she started crying and crying, and she said, oh Prabhupada, she speaks Bhagavatam very nicely. That was my Bhagavatam career started. And of course, since the words came out of Srila Prabhupada's mouth, what I learned was that whatever a pure devotee says must come true. So after 30 years, I started speaking Bhagavatam. I taught Bhakti Vaibhav and Bhakti Vedanta courses along with Burijan Prabhu for 9 years. We went through the whole Bhagavatam, Canto 1 to 12. And what I learned from when I first joined from Prabhupada was that because simply Prabhupada said he was going to come, he didn't even come to the temple. I joined, not only I joined, that weekend, 4 or 5 devotees joined the temple. We never went back after that weekend. Just because Prabhupada said he's coming, and what I understood from that was that Srila Prabhupada will give you the push you need. Like I wasn't ready to join, he just gave me that kick or push that made me able to join the temple, leave everything and just join. And all through my life he's given me that kick and that push to take the next step in spiritual life. So that I learned from the first day I joined. And then in Vrindavan and Mayapur, another thing happened that was very prophetic from Srila Prabhupada. I was in Calcutta, and Prabhupada came, and Pradyumna was there, and he recognized me, that I knew how to type. So he told me, how would you like to go to Mayapur with Srila Prabhupada? I said, yes. He said, well, Prabhupada wants to translate Chaitanya Charitamrita, and so you have to learn to read Bengali, and we're leaving tomorrow. So I said, no problem. Because Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And we would do anything to be with Prabhupada. So he gave me the Bengali book. I learned to read in 1 or 2 hours, and off I was the next day with Prabhupada. That was really nice. And then, so again, Mayapur, austere conditions, living in the Lotus building, which was not at all Lotus. It was under construction. And so we had these doors without handles. So when the huge wind would come, we would put big slabs of marble from construction against the door to keep them closed. And the wind would come and the marble would go sliding across the floor. And we had holes for windows, but no windows. And the ladies' ashram was in a room that had no door. So we had to go out through the next room, which had a door, but that room had no floor, and we were on the first floor. So we had to walk on this plank. You know, Mangalarti, can you imagine? You just wake up and you have to walk out the door, then go down, and there was bathrooms, but no pipes, so we had to pump the water, bring it up on the veranda, and just have a shower out on the veranda. So, yes, again, austerity. So Prabhupada, I was typing in another room. I was doing the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I had this manual typewriter. I don't know if you've ever seen one in your life. It's a typewriter that's not attached to electricity, if you can imagine that. It's, I mean, not even a computer. I mean, it's before computers, it's before typewriters, with electric typewriters. So it's like you have these keys, and then you have to smash it to go to the other side. When you get to the end, then you have to go, you know, hit it to go back at the end of each line. You type like that. And so I was typing, and I had the headphones on, and I was hearing Srila Prabhupada speak the Bengali verse. I had this huge Bengali Chaitanya Charitamrita open, so I would hear Prabhupada say the Bengali, I would read the Bengali, and I would type it in English, Roman Roman letters. So Prabhupada, he looked at my hole in the wall while he was walking on the veranda, and he said, oh, so, very nice editor. You know Bengali? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. Okay, come to my room. So, you know Bengali? Yes, Srila Prabhupada. So he said, so you learn how to type in Bengali, and we will do many books together. So that was the second thing, that I have had visions, oh, I'm going to travel with Prabhupada, but it never happened because in Calcutta Temple they called me back to be head pujari, because all the pujaris left when we got our new temple president.